Welcome to the Boys Crypto Show here on this Sunday night. We have had an absolutely crazy weekend in the market just the past few days. A lot of coins pumping massively to the upside. Oh my gosh, let me get the chat going up here. Make sure to smash that like button before we dive on into today, everybody. Helps get the stream out there to as many people as possible. The stream gets out there to more people. We go over your coin. People may invest in your coin. It's a good way, in order to bring attention to your project. If you guys would do that, that would be greatly appreciated. Diving on into today, just the last 15-minute candle, this hourly candle did open a little red here. We saw some steep declines, in SUI here. Just, I put out a little scalp here. The stops at 349. 350 or so we'll see how that holds up. Looking to come out of this flag, out of the inverted shoulder, head right shoulder for SUI to the upside. We'll see if that can hold. That high volume node cluster seems to be failing us here. We'll see. We're looking for a bounce off this bottom trend line now. Man, it's not looking the best to me, but I'm keeping the trade open. Hey, we opened it and I'm gonna stick it to the end, baby. So it looks good here on a Sunday night. Man, I'm happy to be here with each and every single one of you guys. Shout out to each and every single one of you in the chat. Shouting out to Wanda. Thanks for being the first in here and joining me and spending your time here with me on this Sunday night. Yeah, these last few couple 15-minute candles, man, we were looking so good for a breakout of this pennant, and we got slapped down, baby. Let's crack on open a cold one, baby, and we'll dive on into these charts and we'll see what's happening. If the bubbles are red, it's likely that Bitcoin just opened a big red dildo to the downside. And the Asian pre-market's starting to open up, so we'll see if that has anything to do with it. If that volume is just kind of lacking here in the market just before their market opens, it is likely that we get some kind of chop city in the next hour or so. On over to Bitcoin. Yeah, Bitcoin doing the same exact thing the last, half hour, 45 minutes or so. We lost that 15-minute 200 MA. So key to reclaim that. And as soon as we did, we got slapped down, baby. That being said, Bitcoin's been trading in this range ever since Friday. And that makes sense, right? As we have the CME gap that is currently at, where'd the CME close? CME gap is above us at 94.652. So when this next candle opens in the next 2 hours, the likelihood of Bitcoin pumping at least back up to this level is relatively high, whether that be on market open for the US or whether it be throughout the night. That candle is likely to at least touch that zone in the form of a wick or some other form of price movement. But that's what we're looking at. Happy Sunday to each and every single one of you guys. We have a nice little bull flag potentially forming here for Bitcoin on the daily time frame. Let's zoom on out here. So we've reclaimed some very, very key levels here. We've reclaimed this area that was support. We fell underneath resistance. We came up here and we blasted through it, and now that area is serving as support around $92,500. And we came up exactly to the region where we projected that we were likely to have some struggle, right? In this high volume node cluster where the sellers have stepped in the past. Here on this high volume node, the point of control is exactly where the bulls and the bears are playing tug of war back here at the end of February. And we traded here for like almost 3 weeks from the 3rd of February. Yeah, almost 3 weeks all the way up to the 23rd of February. That was a wild time because it was just like, man, Bitcoin at this point, just pick a direction, man. And we got the dump city to the downside. So we did reclaim this support resistance flip area. That is looking very, very good to me. However, we need to get above this high volume node. You get above this high volume node, and I feel like the FOMO will really start kicking back into this market as Bitcoin goes and looks for higher prices. Can that happen this week? Absolutely. We get some good news in the in economic news, and we got a lot of U.S. home sales coming out this week. We have non-farm payroll coming out on Friday. That's the biggest event coming up this week. Let me pull this up here so you guys can see U.S. economic calendar, baby. Super awesome to keep on your radar. And you know that at these times, 10 a.m., 9 a.m. at the beginning of these days where you do have a macroeconomic news driver coming out, you're likely going to get a either pumping pumpage or dumpage if these estimates are too far off that are projected here in the middle for you on that median forecast. So that's very, very important. And keep in note that all these times that you see here are Eastern Standard Time. So 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for job openings on Tuesday. Monday, there's absolutely nothing. Then that makes sense, right? There's tons of stuff coming up into the week, and Monday, tomorrow, can give us, with no news or economic drivers going in tomorrow, we can see, yes, that fall smooth Monday, everybody's favorite, right? With that low liquidity and the market makers not being able to take advantage of any kind of hopium, optimism, or even despair, right, in either direction, it does promote an area where price can do a lot of whipsaw and really not move anywhere, right? And I think a lot of people are going to be waiting to see how these economic numbers come out, particularly U.S. non-farm payroll coming out on Friday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. What's going on, MH? CSPR pump? Let's pull it up, man. I appreciate you diving on into the CSPR. Oh, we looked at this yesterday, did we not? Yeah, on MEXC. Whoa, brother. That was a massive pump here for CSPR. Something had to spike this, man. Some kind of news, something. And you know how you can find that out? You go over here on X. If you don't have an X account, this is the easiest way for people to put out any kind of news drivers or anything. Yeah, impulse out of the range. I'm surprised there's not any kind of news or anything, but that was a massive, massive move for CSPR. That's wild, man. That's absolutely wild. Yeah, if you were looking to trade this thing, yeah, it's kind of no man's land for me. I mean, you could look at a fib, right, and look for, a retracement here back to the 618.786, and you got that golden pocket dip and a little bit of a reaction off of it so far, but man, that was a massive pump for CSPR. Did you get over the daily 200 SMA? You did, and you're looking to try and close above the daily 200 SMA for the first time, since mid-January. So that would be a very, very strong move for CSPR, despite the, price action that you saw here in the, recent couple of hours that pullback here. The stochastics are reset on the 7-minute. Let's see how they're looking on the hour. Still a little overcooked. The 4 hour is definitely... No, the 4 hour actually doesn't look too bad. The 4 hour is just getting started. So that's really interesting to me. Yeah, CSPR for a massive pump to the upside. Looks good, man. Looks good. Yeah, and here on Sunday night, as the Asian markets open, that's what's really going to start driving volume into the market. A lot more coins are going to start exchanging hands, and we're going to see the true value of a lot of these coins after a weekend of sideways consolidation. All right, Bitcoin here on the 1 hour. Man, going on in, I have to say this. Going on into this week, I feel a lot of, and I'm sure you guys feel this too. I feel like that I'm starting to feel that FOMO, like that FOMO. I really do. Yeah, I'm starting to feel that FOMO. I'm starting to feel that man, we need to get our positions now because the market may leave us behind. In one aspect, I do feel that, and I really do sincerely think that this was the bottom. At least for a lot of these altcoins, can you get a little bit, a last little dip and rip? We'll see if that happens. We'll see if this pennant can kind of form out here, or are we going to get some kind of head right shoulder that dumps us back to the downside? It isn't for sure that we're going to, and there's a giant gap in the VRVP here to support that. It isn't for sure that we're going to pump to the moon right now. That is for sure. I will keep that on everybody's radar. It is no guarantee that the bull market's back on or anything like that. So we got to be cautious here. We got to be cautious here going on into the week, because if these news drivers come out bad or negative in any way, shape, or form, it's going to take the entire market with it. Even in the last hour, like the hour has been a struggle for crypto. It's skewed. These bubbles are skewed by things like IOTA and Pengu that just continue to pump out of absolutely nowhere. I don't even know what IOTA does, but yeah, they got a massive pump on the last hour. If you have a giant bubble like this, it's just based off of the average percent, right? So if you have something that's up 11% and the majority of things are down 0.5% or 1%, that can spell trouble. That could definitely spell trouble here. And this green hour isn't truly a green hour, if that makes sense. Pengu with a 15% pump. or a 6% pump on the 15-minute time frame. That's actually wild. So yeah, there's a lot of money being redistributed in this market. Shout out to you, April. Thanks for joining us. Wanda, MH, what's going on? I appreciate you guys. So Bitcoin trading at $94,000, you know, still tight in this range. I still see this as a range. You can argue that we're coming down to that support line right here. That would be the fourth touch of this trend line. Touch once, twice, three times, the fourth time. And now, you know, that pennant idea, I don't like how this line slopes up a little greater than this one here. Or that, you know, it's tough to call right now for me. It really is. I really want to see how the US market opens, and I want to see the kind of volume that comes on into the market tonight for Asia, because we did just have a massive pump this week. We've been pumping for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days straight, essentially. And, you know, this weekend we did pull back a little bit. The CME gap is above us. I do believe that's going to be filled. The question is it going to be filled during the Asia session, right? After a massive dumpage? I don't know. So that's why I'm kind of hesitant to take any bigger scalp long positions right now, even though my mind is saying, hey, now's the time to start accumulating, right? And I do have a small Ondo position that I did open up at 3x leverage at about $1, and that has been struggling since it has been open. That's okay. I just needed to be positioned in the asset because this thing looks to absolutely rip above these high volume nodes right here. I thought we were going to hold this one right here. We did not. We got a little bit of a rejection, but let's see if we can hold this previous support resistance flip right here. Support, or resistance, support, resistance. We got above. Let's see if this could hold as support. That would look very, very good here for Ondo. So I know I'm kind of all over the place right now because everything's doing for the first time in a long time. A lot of the charts don't look exactly like Bitcoin. There's some charts that are screaming strength, and there are other charts that are saying, hey, there's weakness here. I'm not really sure if you know, dumpage is going to come or pumpage is going to come based solely off the moves of Bitcoin. It's very true. All right, everybody, drop your favorite coins in the chat. It's Sunday night, everybody. This is a little more casual night. We're just going to go over what you guys want to go over. Some things that I was looking at that I did want to keep on your attention. Just the Bitcoin dominance. Again, the Bitcoin dominance. We are struggling a little bit here at the 64% range. At the top of this channel, the inverted cup and handle on the weekly. Just something to keep in mind. I'm going to bring it up almost every day here on the channel. Inverted cup and handle. I am still an altcoin bull here. I think the altcoin season is likely to start to begin as the M2 money supply explodes and risk on assets start to take over again. I think that's likely to come here in the near future. Inverted cup and handle with the giant gap in the VRVP beneath us to support that thesis. I think this is very, very likely to dump to the downside, and alt season is likely upon us. Where would that thesis be invalidated? A weekly close above 66.5%. That would be something that I'd be looking at for like that Bitcoin super cycle or the Bitcoin super cycle. People, right? Are they right? Are altcoins just going to bleed and die comparatively to Bitcoin as it goes on a rocket shot to the upside? It is very possible. But I'm sticking on the side of the altcoins until this 66.4 level or 66.5 level gets closed above on a weekly basis on the weekly chart, baby, on the weekly chart. Inverted cup and handle. A little bit of bearish divergence can definitely form here. Would not take a lot. Just a one singular weekly red candle would give us bearish divergence, suggesting that we'd crack this low before this high, and then that could be the beginning, the test of this channel. If that channel fails, that would be the beginning of alt season, and that is something that I am going to be very, very closely monitoring in these next couple of weeks. I really do believe that sell in May, stay away is not going to be the move on this cycle, right? Historically, January and February have been some of the most bullish months for crypto, and lo and behold, here we are, and it's been some of the most bearish months crypto has ever had. It's been one of the most bearish. These last 2 months, 3 months have been some of the most bearish months crypto has ever had, ever looking at the altcoins from the altcoins perspective, right? So we have to understand that there may be a little bit as far as market psychology goes, that sell in May, stay away may not be the move this upcoming May, and people may be caught with their pants down. So something to keep in mind. Something to keep in mind. Another thing I wanted to look at was total three outside of our box of remembrance. Why do we call it the box of remembrance? Because we're going to remember the box of remembrance when we are remembering where we were getting in, when we're way up at that $3 trillion market cap that I believe total three is heading to. And honestly, since I started looking at the others chart, I've been looking at this chart a little more. Why? Because I am struggling in my heart. I am struggling to believe that Ethereum is going to catch up to the market this cycle. And Ethereum's moves are the thing that greatly impacts, right? Ethereum and XRP. And XRP's just been kind of really lackluster comparatively to the rest of the market in the last month or so, or in the last 2 weeks or so. So a lot of those others have really been popping off, and I think others dominance is even making a move. It has to be. Others dominance, the comparison of how much market value, others dominance in the past couple of days have made a move, making a nice little flag here on the 4-hour time frame, getting above the 4-hour 200 SMA. What does this represent? Well, it represents the amount of money that is in all altcoins outside of the top 10. And I think this thing could go on a massive parabolic run. You get a parabolic run here. That's alt season, baby. Not just alt season. That's alt season comparatively to the top 10 cryptos. So you'll see a lot of those 2, 3, 5, 10x's come out of some of your favorite coins if this chart does decide to break to the upside. That being said, on the weekly, you are testing some key levels of support here. These levels fail, and so that support resistance flip level does start to struggle. If this level cannot be reclaimed and we go up and reclaim this high volume node, that would not look good from an others market cap perspective, right? You have the shoulder, head, right shoulder. You do have a little bit of a falling channel right here on the weekly. Why are we looking at the weekly? Because it is a lot more reliable to look at things from a higher time frame when you're speculating on whether we're in a bull market or a bear market scenario. The weekly stochastic RSI pointing up very violently. The RSI, the mark line crossing your signal line, your mark line crossing your signal line, suggesting that there is a further pump likely to come to the upside. And if others can just steal, a 2 to 3% dominance, that would be massive. Comparatively to the total crypto market cap, this only holds about 8%. So that would be an average of 20% gains for all the coins outside of the top 10. And of course, there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers. Just something to keep on your radar going on into the rest of honestly, this quarter, the Q2 of 2025. MH wants to look at XLM. XLM, absolutely, man. Thanks for dropping on in the chat. XLM getting a little bit of a reversal here on the weekly. Let's see what it's looking like on the daily. The daily's looking good. Coming up to test that daily 200 SMA. The difference between me being a bull and a bear on any asset is that daily 200 SMA. And this is kind of fanning out here. Let's see if we can get a little bit of a Pataroony form in here. Looks good on the wedge. Let's see if we could get a Fibonacci retrace here. Fibonacci retrace from swing low to swing high. Where'd you come down to? Look at that. From the swing low of the range to the swing high, your 786 was your perfect bounce zone down here at about 20 cents. 20 cents, you got in at 20 to 20 and a half cents. You caught the bottom, baby, on that fib retrace, and you would currently be up. You would currently be up about 39% on your investment without leverage. That is a strong move for XLM. You do have some overhead resistance. Where you're at right now, you're at a high volume node where sellers have stepped in before and reversed price to the downside. Not only that, you have the 200 SMA here looming is resistance until confirmed support, broken above and confirmed support. What I do like here is if you do get above this high volume node, the likelihood of you cracking that 200 MA is relatively high because this gap in the VP is very, very severe. You get a giant gap like that, baby, you could squeeze up here to that 34-cent range, the next high volume node that is sitting in the set, and you get above there, you're like looking to come back to the point of control at 43 cents where the most amount of XLM has traded hands. That looks good, man. That looks good. And you could even call this a flag here. You could call this a flag from the bottom to the top. The technical target of this pattern takes you all the way up to 81 cents. That's a 3-4X 2x from where you're, or 3x from where you're currently sitting. So that would be a really, really juicy area to maybe start loading up on some XLM. I'll be honest, not my favorite project in the game, but this thing does tend to move without regard for what the rest of the market is doing. I remember this pump back here in 2024 when President Donald Trump got elected, right, in that speculation on him being able to punt the markets. And this thing moved a little harder than I think the rest of, honestly, it had an XRP XL or XRP HBAR XCN kind of move 555% in just 2 weeks. That is almost unheard of in any asset class except for crypto. So that was a monumental move to the upside out of this flag for XLM. That's what I'm looking at, MH. It looks good. You just got to reclaim that daily 200 SMA and start gapping up in the high volume node. Once you start seeing candles close in this area where the wick currently stands, that will be looking really, really good for a squeeze up through this gap in the VRVP. Watch your daily 200 SMA. You start closing candles above there, baby. Look what happens. Look what happens when you shift above the daily 200 SMA. You get below the daily 200 SMA, close, and you're in for a bumpy ride, right? Until you get back above it. It happens almost all the time. It's just something I've noticed in trading. It happens all the time. You wait for the candle body closure, right? Very important. You want to wait for the candle body closure. You get out down here, right? That's not a true test of the daily 200 SMA. So you wait for that candle body closure. You get the full candle body close above the daily 200 SMA with a stop below. 9 times out of 10, it's not going to get hit. Here would have paid you massively to the upside for XCN. Is that an opportunity that we're running into right now coming out of the golden pocket? 618786, a bullish Fibonacci retrace from the swing high up here at about 64 cents. If altcoin season is about to begin, XLM can go on a monumental tear. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Wanda wants to look at Ondo. Ondo is one of my favorite coins in the game coming up into this cycle. Why is it one of my favorite coins? Well, I think the tokenization of real world assets is going to be one of the biggest bullish things that could come out of the entire crypto space. Why? Well, think about, to me, I'm thinking about the evolution of trading, right? So think about in the past how things have upgraded, right? So the most recent one that I could think of is taxis, right? Taxis replaced by Uber, Lyft, things of that nature. Ondo aims to bring real world asset tokenization to life. Tokenizing US stocks, treasuries, and bonds. What would that do? It would allow you to not have to wait during the market to trade your stocks. Right now, that's impossible, and that's not right? We have markets trading around the world, and unless you're going to dive into a really thin liquidity pool where you're likely going to get ripped on either fees or lack of supply for, for your buy and sell orders, right? Where you're likely going to be moving price really, really quickly, or people can manipulate the price. If everything gets put on chain and pays a fee to Ondo will moon like you've never seen it moon before. And they're working with the SEC right now, and those are the kind of questions they're asking Ondo Finance. I think this thing could be a big outperformer in this space, and that's why I had to get in at $1. I had to get in at $1. Anything under $1 for Ondo, I think, is a steal, right? If any of you got in down at 67, 70 cents, kudos, congratulations to you. I'm looking for a retest of the top of this trend line, going to add more to my swing long position here. Come down, retest the trend line, and gap up finally through this giant gap in the VRVP up to that $1.40 range. And I do believe, right, that this coin is going to crack the highs. I think this coin will crack the highs that it had back here at about $2.14. And, even if it does, you're looking at Fibonacci extension targets way up here at about $3, $4, and potentially even $7 for Ondo. And I think if the US SEC, the Security and Exchange Commission, dives on in with Ondo and wants to tokenize US treasuries, I think a lot of other countries will full pour on board, and I think this thing could do some massive damage this season. That's speculation, right? What do the charts say, right? So the chart set shoulder, head right shoulder. We may be coming down to retest that neckline before that further move to the upside. I do have limit orders in here, down here for Ondo, because I'm trying to pick up as much as I can at the best prices that I can, so I could get that juicy ROI that I believe Ondo is going to supply this upcoming bull run. The stochastics are a little overcooked on the daily, but the weekly says no, no, no. We are just getting started here for Ondo. The stochastic RSI pointing up very, very violently in the signal line, crossing the mark line here. It looks good. It looks really, really good for Ondo. You did find support here in this high volume node cluster, and this was the support, resistance, 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 and they came down. You dipped below, but you got back above that key support resistance area right here. This zone has served as a key zone for Ondo that Ondo has repeatedly visited and hasn't spent a lot of time outside. Look, just a couple of weeks, and just a couple of weeks here, and Ondo is a relatively new project. I think that this thing has this skies to the limit with this thing. I think Ondo can do some massive, massive damage this upcoming season. That's what I'm looking at. Wanda, I appreciate you dropping that on in the chat. Christoph, what do I see the top target for Ondo this run? Yeah, hey, MH, I agree with you. BlackRock has been buying Ondo. Larry Fink talks very, very highly of real-world asset tokenization. You know who else owns Ondo? Donald Trump's World Liberty Financial. Be it as it may right now, that their crypto holdings are not doing well. World Liberty Financial, I acknowledge that. But over the course of time, if this market does turn around, that portfolio can absolutely moon. They do hold Ondo. Larry Fink loves the real-world asset tokenization, and this is the leader in the space ever since Mantra DAO fell off. And I think this one's going to struggle just a tad here over the next few weeks. Why? Because of Mantra DAO. What the team did, I don't know how that happened, but it looks like a rug pull. Ohm Network. Mantra DAO, baby. We just type it out here. If I could spell. Mantra DAO, Mantra got destroyed, delisted by a lot of exchanges. This was a nightmare. I don't care what the CEO says. I don't care what the team says. They rugged this coin and they stole from a lot of people. And I would be very, very surprised if this coin does not, if that team does not see a very massive, substantial lawsuit, as it was partnered with a lot of people around the globe. There is likely going to be a massive lawsuit out of this rug pull. Does this not look like any other rug in a singular 2-minute time frame? You took out the gains of an entire year of price action. That is absolutely crazy, and I think Mantra DAO has some answers that it owes the public, baby. It owes the public, and I'm very, very excited to see what kind of lawsuit comes out of this, because there will likely be one. Mantra DAO to never recover. I would never look. Whenever I see a candle like this on the 1 hour on anything. This is a 1 hour candle. Whenever I see a candle like this, my trust, my faith in the project is gone. I don't have any faith in this project anymore. It will not come back. This is the death of this project. The team knew it. Everybody knew it, and they got out. And whatever the CEO says, it doesn't matter to me. No trust in the project for me. Not a part of my portfolio. Never will be. A Mantra DAO to the depths. With that being said, it did overtake Ondo in that real-world asset tokenization, right? Real-world asset tokenization. And now Ondo is the new leader. But ever since this is going to give people some PTSD, man. It's going to give some people some PTSD before diving on into these assets. Is that the opportunity that other institutions are using to accumulate real-world asset aggregators? It could be. It definitely could be, but that's really, really interesting. Yeah, BlackRock has definitely been buying Ondo. Where's the top for Ondo? So to me, when I'm looking for tops, right? Whenever I'm looking at market cycle tops, I go from the swing high to the swing low of the prior range. And people hate when I do this because it doesn't get that bullish hopium, right? And it doesn't. And the truth be told, nobody knows. Nobody knows where Bitcoin's going to top. I don't care what following they have. I don't care what TA they're using. Nobody knows. Blue Sky's breakouts are unlike any other. When you get massive FOMO and a supply shock, Blue Sky's breakouts are a reality, right? Look at Virtuals going from 50 cents all the way up to $5, 10xing in just a matter of months. Absolutely crazy. I think the top for Ondo is likely going to be in this $4.50 to $5 range. I think the 2.618 is going to be a great extension here. If the SEC gives regulatory clarity I think a target of about $7 to $8 is very, very realistic here for Ondo on the turnaround. I think that's very, very likely here going on into the future. Very, very interesting for Ondo. I think this thing could pump massively, especially sitting at $1 right now. You're looking at a 3 to 5x. Anybody who could 3 to 5x their money over the course of a year are going to be super happy, and I think this thing could do some massive, massive damage. That's what I'm looking at for Ondo. MH wants to look at Ape. Yeah, absolutely, man. On Binance, Ape showing very similar signs as the rest of the market. Man, come on, Bitcoin. Come on, man. We spent so much time up here, and you're gonna give it up here on the last day here. We gotta hold that high volume node. We gotta hold this high volume node at about 93,560. If we don't, we could potentially come back down here to $87,000, right? Or at least to the fib, the 618786 from the previous range, which is right here, that impulse right there, from the swing low to the swing high. We could come back down to 90K. That's not something that I want to see. And I honestly don't know if the market can afford, right? If we come back down and we lose the daily 200 SMA again, that could spell some major trouble. That could damage the market very, very badly, right? Falling beneath that daily 200 SMA, and I'm not saying this is gonna happen, but if this was the move up to the 618, was it? I don't think we did get up there, did we? We almost did. If people were front running the 618 right here, if this was a 618 front run running up into the high volume node, this is likely where the lower high was likely to come in. And we almost got there. Is that going to be the lower high that takes us to lower prices? See, that's the danger right here. We're not out of the woods yet. We still have not reclaimed this high volume node at about 96,000. Very, very important. And whenever you're looking at your altcoins, you got to look at Bitcoin, man. Like a lot of these coins, Ape in the top 100, I believe, right? Is it not? Ape in the top 100. Sui taking a beatdown back to 355. Not looking good for that scalp there. Not looking good for that scalp. But we'll see if that does turn around. Ape. Ape. Is it ApeCoin? It is ApeCoin, is it not? Yeah, it is ApeCoin. It is ApeCoin. So this thing is outside of the top. Whoop. Yeah, it's in the top 200, so that's okay. But let's dive on into it. All right. So, ApeCoin, yeah, getting a little bit of rejection with Bitcoin. Like everything else, it is what it is. It is okay. No stress. Going on into the week, the Monday candle, I think it's going to be very volatile over the next couple of hours, especially through the Age trading session. I may even close some of my positions here and try to sleep and just you got some nice bullish div, and I know I dived over into Bitcoin real quick, but here's some bullish divergence on the 1 minute that could kick us out of here. Bullish div on the 1 minute. Swing down while we have a swing up on the RSI indicator, suggesting we break this high before we break this low. That looks really, really good to me. Maybe a reversal, get above that 200 MA, and we could be gone here. And I know it's a lot of wishy-washy action right now. It's wishy-washy, baby. It's wishy-washy. It is what it is. We call it as we see it. All right. ApeCoin, here we go. On the daily, yeah, did you crack your high? So you still haven't made a higher high yet on the daily. That is concerning. You're starting off the day, or you're about to end the day with a bearish engulfing candle, and that's a shame, right? Because just an hour ago, it was looking pretty good at 52 cents. Where would you have been sitting here? Yeah, you would have been sitting up here. It wouldn't have looked this bad. So you want to reclaim this high volume node at about 53 cents before, in the next hour and 20 minutes. In order for you to feel like this high volume node has validity here in the space, the stochastics are cooked a little bit on the daily. RSI is a little overbought. That's okay. The 4 hour though says, no, it is time to go from the stochastics RSI perspective, but you have some massive daily or a 4 hour bearish divergence that is rearing in your face as you have lower highs being formed while you're making higher highs on price action. That does suggest that this low gets cracked before this high. And to be honest with you guys, it could go either way tonight. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it for you guys. It could definitely go either way tonight for Bitcoin, depending on how the Asian markets react. If there's any news over there in Asia while the Americans sleep. I don't like the bearish divergence on here. That is very, very true. But I really, truly believe all the major altcoins are going to follow Bitcoin and the move it makes throughout the night. And it's going to be more severe / less severe, right? You're going to get some pumpage. You're going to get some dumpage. And it's going to be it's I think it's going to be a wild night. I think it's going to be a wild night, one direction or the other. Yeah, even on the, let's see, the 5 minute. Yeah, there's going to be some volatility tonight. That does seem very, very likely here. So yeah, ApeCoin on the smaller time frame. Look at that. So even as Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is 3 green minute candles, right? Look at that, 3 green minute candles. ApeCoin has 3 green minute candles. So everything's going to follow likely Bitcoin and the move Bitcoin makes throughout the night. I just got to keep that on everybody's radar going on in the night. Very, very important. All right, diving on in. MH, that's Ape for you, man. I hope that answers your question. If I was looking for a trade on Ape, what would I be doing? Well, did you come back down to a fib here? You may have on the 4 hour, probably the 786, 618, 786 golden pocket retrace. That's likely going to be the area of your next high or low. If you are going to get one here, that is very, very true. Woo! I deleted my indicators there. So that is very, very true. I want to see this high volume node hold. That's probably at the 786. So where a lot of people are going to be putting buy orders as well, with this high volume node sitting at about 51 cents. That is a very, very interesting area to me. You want to see that hold as we go throughout the night on the 4 hour time frame. That's what I'd be looking at. You don't really have any kind of flag or sound market structure here going on into the night. The stochastics are reset on the higher time frame, suggesting that there is likely going to be a bounce here in the coming hours/days. But then again, your daily stochastics are cooked. So I would just watch Bitcoin, man. I have to watch Bitcoin here. Everything's going to follow Bitcoin and the move that it decides to make tonight. Everything. SUI, XRP, Ethereum, everything in the top 100. Notice how bubbles. Whenever Bitcoin has a 5 minute candle, almost all of these bubbles are green, baby. They are green. When you have a bearish 15 minute candle, almost everything is red, baby. Red, massively red. So you got to take it with a grain of salt, right? Like, things are going to move with different severity in comparison to Bitcoin. However, a green candle is going to be a different size on the altcoin compared to Bitcoin, but it's going to be a green candle nevertheless, or a red candle nevertheless, despite whether it's green or red for Bitcoin. That percentage is what's going to be different, and what's going to make you the difference between these assets winning and losing over the coming days. So that's really interesting to me. That's something that I'm going to be tracking. That's ApeCoin for you, man. I wish I had a better answer for you. I will have better answers on a lot of these coins when there's volume in the market. I can't speak for certainty on the weekend. This is just looking into the week ahead and what I'm seeing currently in the charts as the Asia market opens in about 20 minutes pre-market, and then an hour for the 20 minutes. Oh, I changed time zones. Yeah, 20 minutes. An hour and a half. An hour and a half until Asia markets open, or pre-market starts, and then the full market opens at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But yeah, that's what I'm looking at going on into the night, and we'll see what kind of volume that Asia could get us. All right, diving on in. Wanda wants to look at Render. Render, one of the hottest AI plays in the game, and I think this thing could do some massive damage. We did put out a little bit of a Trader-Rooney idea based off of this shoulder head right shoulder idea. Very, very likely shoulder head right shoulder coming down to the 6187. Is that where I put it? Probably. The 618786 golden pocket retracement. Yeah, right there at the 618. Looks very, very good. Render coming down to that target for a reversal, likely to the upside. That's likely where the next higher low is going to come in for Render, being pulled from this wick down to the 618786 area. This would be the area that I'd be looking for a bounce for Render if we are going to get continued price action to the downside. With that being said, if you're accumulating spot Render, getting it at $4.30 versus $4, right? Like, even if you did like, hey, I have $100 to put in a Render, I'm going to put in $10 here, and here, and you can try and eat that the entire way. That way you get the best prices, the best bang for your buck, if you will. I think that's the best way to accumulate some of these altcoins in this range where we're standing right now, because I really truthfully believe altcoin season's on the horizon, and you'll know it because you'll look and be like, wow, my coin doubled. I wish I would have had more at those prices. And you're not going to, when Render's trading at $8 again, which I full-heartedly believe that it will, are you really going to care whether you got in at $4.30, $4.15, or $4.11, or $3.90? Probably not. That's a 3x either way. So, I think that a lot of these coins, right, at these prices are relatively good prices still. It's not very far away from our box of remembrance here on Total 3. We may even dip down into that box of remembrance again. We'll have to extend this out. Baby. This is our box of remembrance. This is where we're going to remember we were averaging in the altcoins, and we're currently above it right now. We were averaging in the altcoins. We averaged into render down here at about $3, right? So you're feeling really good. That's over a 50% pump for render. You're sitting here and you're like, it's almost a 50% pump for render, and you're like, man, I wish I would have got more at $3. That's what this box of remembrance represents for all of us. So I'm excited to see what the move gives us throughout the night. Let's see if this bullish divergence can kick us up on the 1. Stochastics on the 5, definitely cooked. We did lose the 5-minute 200 SMA, not a good sign, and we lost the 15 for Bitcoin. A lot of the altcoins are looking a little different now. So tonight, it is very, very difficult to call the direction for Bitcoin based on the charts that we're given right now. We need to see actual volume come on into the space and to see what the reaction of the market will be, because the likelihood of us coming up to this 94.7 area, about a $700 pump for Bitcoin today on this daily candle open, which happens in about an hour, is statistically a 99% certainty that we see this price get filled this week. So, or this upcoming week, oftentimes Monday/Tuesday. So let's see if we get that CME gap at least filled, and maybe this turns into a nice green candle with a nice juicy wick here. And then the next day, look for that big move to the upside to attack that node. That would look really good on the 4-hour time frame from a pennant perspective. If this is a pennant forming, and this is a big if this is a pennant forming here, that is one of the most bullish patterns here in crypto, and it takes guts. It takes some serious sack to be like, boys, crypto, I'm taking the long right now, and I'm putting the stop beneath the high volume node, and I'm going for it, baby. I'm going for it. Well, those traders, right, when they get it right, are rewarded more handsomely than any of the other traders in the game. You get a breakout to the upside, that trade would pay you 18 to 1. You saying, yes, I have the sack, boys, crypto. This is the trade of the year. This is the trade of the year. I'm going to put my stop at about 93.2, and I'm going to ride this puppy all the way back to the all-time high, because that's where this pennant would take us back up here to about 106,000. It would catch everybody with their pants down, and it does seem like that could happen throughout the night. The 4-hour stochastics have been pinned since this whole weekend. We've been oversold on the stochastic RSI. We've been forming a little bit of bearish divergence, which suggests you're going to crack that low before this high. But with the stochastics reset, that does put a little question on how strong that bearish divergence is. And the daily still cooked to the upside, but we've been cooked since last week. We've been overbought all week this week, and we've talked about that. When you get pinned on the stochastics, it doesn't mean they're automatically going to come back down. You have to wait for us to breach back in my opinion. It is always wise to wait till you breach back in the fair value area, right? Right here, you were overbought. You get back down into that range, and then you're likely to dunk. You get back down you got over the range, you're likely to pump, and you could stay in this range for a long time. We've been here for the last 7 days for BTC, so but the RSI still has not reached overbought levels on the daily. So today is going to be crazy. Today's going to be crazy on this low volatility Monday. It is very, very true. That's render for you, Wanda. I know we're back over on the Bitcoin, and I'm kind of bouncing all over the place, but this is the ballsy trade. This is the ballsy trade. Yes, boys, crypto, that candle is going to form to the upside, and we're going to get a massive wick and pumpage out of this pennant. It looks good to me, boys, crypto. That high volume node will hold, and that trader is going to be rewarded very, very handsomely with a 17 to 1 risk to reward, saying that we're not going to come back down below 93,200. Can that happen? Absolutely. You get a pump up to 95 and you're feeling pretty good about your trade. This turns into a green candle. You can move your stop to break even and let it ride, baby. Let it ride. So, I'll look into this throughout the night, and I may even open up something juicy like that going on into the Asia trading session. But I got to see how this 4-hour candle closes. We still have an hour left on the daily candle. Very important to watch how this closes. This red candle is not solidified, and it looks worse than it is. Let's clear this out here. How big is this candle? Let's look at it. This candle, the lowest we've been was 93.6. The highest we've been was 95.2. So there's about a $1,500 range, and it feels like every couple of minutes Bitcoin's worth a different couple of $100, right? So this range right here, and you could say, yeah, we blew it off right there. This range right here has been the range of the day. This is where we've been all day, right? This will be the daily range. And yeah, we're below the high volume node on the range right here. I do acknowledge that. But this can be filled like this hour, right? Bitcoin can pump this. Bitcoin could have a candle like this in a single hour. It happens all the time on Bitcoin. So in an hour and a half, an hour and 15 minutes, you could have 5 15-minute candles, boom, boom, boom. And then immediately you're like, oh my gosh, like that looks like a really, really good candle on the daily because we didn't wait for the daily candle close. Very important to wait for that for Bitcoin here into the coming hours, because even if we get back up to 94.3, which is just $400 above where we are, that would set up the week very, very nicely to go and fill this gap, and that green candle likely to emerge. And I will remind you here, listen, Bitcoin is one of the most volatile assets in the world. If you think Bitcoin's volatile, look at the altcoins. Yeah, everybody knows what I'm talking about. But as you zoom out here on the chart, trying to catch a higher low is never a bad idea. Whenever you tried to catch higher lows, okay, you did here, but eventually you came back up. If you were to hold through that year bear market, you made money, right? It's never a bad time to accumulate some more Bitcoin, in my opinion. And anything under 100,000, my perspective is that anything under 100,000, I'm going to look anybody who's bought Bitcoin under $100,000 in the eye later on in life, and I'm going to shake their hand and I'm going to say, congratulations, you made one of the best investments you've ever made. And it's going to be the people who got in at 93, at 99, at 70, and at 10. Those people will have made some of the best investments of their life, because this is a relatively new asset. I think this will replace gold one day. I really do. Gold, a $20 trillion behemoth, Bitcoin sitting at 1.5. And it's truly scarce too. It's truly scarce. The supply on exchanges is drastically low, and I think this asset can go monumentally further to the upside. And I think honestly, pulling the fib targets from the swing high to swing low, I think that gives us very, very likely bull market targets, right? Up here to about 130 being the first one, but I really do think we're going to come up to this $150,000, $160,000 range. I think that's very, very likely, and then we'll have some kind of blow off top scenario, and then we'll go into the bear market. That's what I see happening for Bitcoin, right? And then catching the bottom somewhere around 50, 60, that's just speculation, right? And we'll take it one day at a time as the charts come our way. But that's what I'm looking at for Bitcoin going on here into the Sunday night. On the bubbles, look at that. Bitcoin is a 15-minute candle, and everything is a 15-minute candle to the upside, baby. I really think if I was in anybody's shoes right now, to me, these altcoins are at prices that we're not going to see for a very long time. We're not. I really do think altcoin season is upon us. And to all of you who are new here to this, this move caught everybody off guard. And there's a recipe for this move to happen again. This move, does everyone remember this? Let me look on in here. This was the inauguration. Let me show you this. This is actually interesting. I wanted to show you guys this. Everybody remembers this. This was the inauguration of Donald Trump. This was November. Pull up whatever chart you want. Pull up whatever chart you want on the altcoins. This right here is what that period of time represented. That 3 weeks was this move for XRP. This one right here. That was this move on Bitcoin dominance. A nothing burger, a little fart to the downside Bitcoin dominance had. Now, you get this kind of move, this massive 40-50% capitulation to the downside. Even if we get a fraction of that, Bitcoin's multiples of what it was back here in 2021, when this starts, most people will miss this because they will have been trying to get in at the best prices. That's why I'm holding on to my spot bags and I'm sitting, it's going like this. And you know, the spot bags have been paying really, really well, but I haven't realized any gains yet. All of the gains that I've made on altcoins in the past 2-3 weeks are unrealized. I'm not any richer based off of the movement of the charts because I haven't hit the sell button. Zero. I made $0, right, off of my altcoin spot bags in the past 2 weeks. Even though my bags are worth monumentally more at this current stage, I think right here, this move is yet to come. When this move comes, this is what made crypto millionaires. This is what brought people out of the rat race. This move right here. It wasn't this. And yeah, XRP had a 5x move, right? Look at this. This is 4 to 5x tall. That represents a 20x move for a lot. And I'm not saying that's going to happen for XRP. That's just using that as an example, right? But this was the move back in November. Pull up whatever chart. I just thought of one off the top of my head. VeChain, baby. VeChain. This represents that move. You could look at the chart and be like, oh, I know what that time was. This move right here for VeChain and all the altcoins that got that massive pump, right? These pumps off the lows, that 2-3x happened on this Bitcoin dominance. Where is it? On this Bitcoin dominance drop off to the downside. And I think that is relatively, it's close. It is so close I could taste it. I feel like I did in 2021, right? I'm starting to feel that itch, like this is it. This is the beginning. And you get that sense, right? When you're in something before everybody else is, you get that itch, that feeling. That's how I feel about Ondo. That's how I feel about Sui right now. Before this move happens, you got to pick your winners and your losers. And those coins I see as being 10-20x potential for Sui anyway, and a 10x potential for Ondo potentially on the radar. And this is the move that is needed, right, for that to happen. And when it happens, it'll happen in 4 months. Look at July. Take a look at your portfolio and think of it as 10x what it is right now. That's a reality that will occur in the event that altcoin season is right on the horizon. This was hard. This was a hard move to catch. And I got into altcoins late back in 2021. I got into altcoins late. I got into altcoins down here. I'm not looking to get in down here again. I'm looking to find the top. I'm looking to find the top on these altcoins because the difference between taking coins from here to here and here to here isn't a 2x, right? It's like a 4 to an 8x. It's a giant difference in when you're looking at the altcoins in general and looking for that Bitcoin dominance top out. That's what I'm looking at here going on into this week, everybody. I think this week is going to be monumentally volatile, especially going on into tomorrow. Be careful trading. You'll keep up to date with me. Keep up to date with me on X at BoysCrypto102 on X, baby. You keep up to date with what I'm doing with my portfolio. Where we had this little Sui long here, or this little Sui long scalp that we did take. Where's Sui sitting right now? Sui, baby, Sui. It is definitely below our entry after that little pullback-a-rooney that we had, but back up. No, you know what? And we're almost at where we got it. Like, this is going to be a wild ride tonight. This is going to be a wild ride tonight. And some of the altcoins are primed for a big move. Look at Sui here. This is a massive shoulder, head, right shoulder, inverted shoulder, head, right shoulder. Still holding that high volume node on the 2-hour time frame. Stops at 349. Targeting, yes, $4.10. It can happen during the Asian session. It can happen as we wake up tomorrow morning going on into a low liquidity Monday. Everybody's scared of low liquidity, baby, but the U.S. stock market's going to bring some volume tomorrow, and boom, to the upside we can go. And look at this as we battle. And you know, what were we just looking at, Wanda? We were just looking at that daily candle for render, were we not? Right? Or not render. What were we just looking at for the daily candle? Oh, BTC. BTC, baby. Where's BTC sitting at? 93.6. This candle still has an hour. We're just sitting down here at about 93.7. We're inching up right now. There's time. There's time. We have a high volume node beneath us to support us here. We got above that. Isn't it crazy to believe that we're trading at the area where the U.S. Crypto Strategic Reserve got announced? We can bounce here. We could get a very nice daily candle body close. It would only take about $500 for Bitcoin. That's less than a 1% move, and the Asian volume isn't even here yet. So it would take one singular whale order going on into the night before the Asian markets open to push Bitcoin to that price. It could sincerely happen, and this candle could look completely different in the next 1 hour and 3 minutes. Definitely keep that on your radar as we go in throughout the night. Much love, every single one of you that dived on into the charts with me today. A little bit of a shorter stream today, everyone. A little bit of a shorter stream. Enjoy your time. Enjoy your family this Sunday night. And we will be back again tomorrow, and we're going to hit it. We're going to hit it hard tomorrow, baby. We're going to hit it hard tomorrow. I may even be streaming a little early tomorrow. Not early, just extending the stream a little bit. Depending on the market and how it's looking, there's going to be a lot to go over tomorrow, everybody. Rest your minds. Rest your heads. This week's going to be massive. This week has the potential, and I'm telling you from a charting perspective, for Bitcoin this week has the potential. Look at this move compared to this move right here. This week has the potential to be one of the biggest moves in crypto history if Bitcoin does go and retake the highs, which the move off the lows, this only took 2 weeks for a 25% pump for Bitcoin. When we reclaim this lows, I think we'll see 100,000 again. I think we see 100,000 again. I think True FOMO is going to kick in. True FOMO kicks in. I really do believe there is I would say a 2%, I'll give it a 2 to 3% chance that we test the all-time high this week. I'd say we have a 10% chance of testing $100,000, and I think there is about a 70% chance that we at least test this high volume node up here at about 97,000 to give you an idea of the probabilities that are in my head to see Bitcoin continue further to the upside. And I think, keep your eyes on Bitcoin dominance. Keep your eyes on Bitcoin dominance. The daily has some severe bearish divergence forming here, and I know we've had bearish divergence over and over and over again here for Bitcoin dominance that suggests this low cracks before this high. We've had severe bearish divergence on the daily and on the weekly for Bitcoin dominance that has been defied over and over and over for the past 2 years. I will say this. When this breaks, one of these bearish divergences is highly likely to crack to the downside. If this is the right one, and it could be, any of them could be, if this is the right one, this is the top. If this bearish divergence kicks to the downside and we go and test this multi-year trend, this 2-year trend we have here on the weekly, let's see it here. Let's see it. Let me pull out the lines and get this exact trend right here. If that daily bullish divergence, all it would take is daily bullish divergence to reject us here from where we currently stand and to come down here and test this trend line at the bottom. We start playing 200 MA dominoes. Bitcoin dominance can give very, very quickly. This would be an 8%, 10% move to the downside, which would be a mini alt season in and of itself, more severe than back here in November of 2020. I really think that we could be there. This could be the top for Bitcoin dominance. If it is, each and every single one of you here that has watched my channel and has taken any financial advice, although you shouldn't have, will look back and realize that this was one of the greatest times to get in the altcoins of your lives. I am very excited to take on the 2025 altcoin bull market with you guys, and we're going to find the hottest setups in the game. And right now is the hardest to take action. Why? Because it's the scariest. But those people who have the sack to make this move here in this golden pocket, anywhere from up here, where is it, 66.2? In this region, if you have the sack to get into altcoins right here, and we're right on that inverted cup and handle, you will make more money this altcoin season than depending on what you invest, you could potentially multiply your net worth this cycle, and it's in the altcoins right now. I really do believe that. And not financial advice. as always, and I do want to take a little peek back here. Look at this right here, this wick right here. This is just interesting stuff that I'm seeing, and I just can't stop staring at this chart. I cannot stop staring at this chart because I really do believe the rollover is coming soon. Look at this wick right here. We just barely cracked it, did we not? Look back here. Look back here how this ended. This high was cracked, right? We had a massive shoot off top of some consolidation, and it just barely, there was a singular candle that wicked above that range, and then you began alt season. I really sincerely believe that we're there right now, and we'll get some more data going on into this week, everybody. Thank you for joining me on in here tonight on the Boys Crypto Show. There's going to be a lot more clarity and a much easier way to look at the charts tomorrow when there's volumes, everybody. When there's volume in the market, that's Sunday night for you, everybody. Much love to each and every one of you. Thank you for spending your time with me. I will see you guys tomorrow night on the live. Much love, everybody. Until then, Boys Crypto is out, baby. We are out. Thank you for joining me tonight. Much love. Enjoy the time with your family.